Hey babes, my name's Hannah.
And my name's Chasity.
Welcome back to Bookish Babes. We're in a little bit of a new location. We're at my house instead of Chastity's. So really excited about that. Really excited about the change of scenery.
Surprise!
Yeah, right? And we're actually going to be running you guys through our April reading wrap up. We know it's a little late. We had some technical difficulties last week. So, but we're back. So we're gonna run through everything we read in April.
We're back! Finally.
Yeah, right?
Sorry, we had a few things go a little wonky.
Yeah. So,
oh, right. I'm starting.
Yes, she read 6, I read 4, so she's gonna start and we're kind of gonna alternate.
Sorry, I'm a little sleep deprived, a little over caffeinated. Yeah.
All the things.
All the things. The first one that I read in the month of April was For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This book has not come out yet. I believe it's actually coming out next month in June. I was lucky enough to get an advanced reader copy from NetGalley, so thank you very much, NetGalley. I really love Samantha Downing's first book, My Lovely Wife. I've talked about it on the channel before. I raved about it. It was so good. I recommend it all the time. I felt pretty much the same about the second one. I really love her twisty characters. Getting inside their heads it's always such a trip, honestly, with her. This one was about a prestigious school, and there's like a bunch of underlying issues with the school, not necessarily like the students or anything. It's more like the teachers. There's kind of like a competition a little bit between the teachers. Like, some teachers are less qualified but held in higher esteem because they were students of the school, you know, so they're considered family.
Okay.
So there's this one particular teacher that just thinks he is kind of getting the short stick. So he's going around kind of taking things into his own hands, and he kind of starts, poisoning people.
Oh.
So...
I feel like there were a lot of steps in between that he could have taken.
Yeah, you know, maybe.
That's not my business, though.
Maybe. There's also, like, things start to unravel and you start to find out more about this teacher. And then something goes really wrong and it ends up, like, the person the poison was intended for ends up not being who gets it. And then, like, a whole bunch of shit just starts to unravel. Like, it jumps to other people's point of views, and like other people think they're responsible for this person's death, and you start to find out like a whole bunch of stuff about these characters that you were like,
That's
wait a minute.
Cool though. It's like, why would they think they're responsible for it? Okay.
Yeah, I thought this was just gonna be like your typical psych thriller where he's just like taking people out, but no, it like spiraled into something completely different. Yeah, it was like, honestly, everyone was fucked up. So I gave it 5 stars. It was definitely not what I was expecting. And the ending definitely left me with one of those just like, wait, what? What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely recommend it when it comes out. I'll have to remind you about it.
Yes, please do. So the first book that I finished in April was, I reread City of Bones by Cassandra Clare for another video that we're filming, where we basically read each other's favorite young adult books from like when we were younger. I felt the same about it this time as I did last time, where it's like, I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite. I think it's maybe because I read it for the first time as an adult that I didn't enjoy it as much as like some people who read it when they were actually like, not that like, I don't want to say the proper age, because you can read young adult at any age, truly, but
I think it affects
I'm not
you
the intended target. Yeah, I'm not the target audience for it, and I think it showed in how much I enjoyed it. But I am definitely able to appreciate it and see how other people did enjoy it at a different time in their life. And I think even when I read it like 2 years ago, I was still an adult, but I probably still enjoyed it a little bit more then than I did now. My favorite part though about this book is the dynamic between her and her mom.
I knew that you were gonna say that.
I love it, and I love kind of feeling like I love being in Clary's head and seeing her realize the life that her mom had before she was born.
Yeah.
And she's so shocked. She's like, because this is my mom.
Yeah.
This is my mom. How did she live this crazy life? And how did she have me with this crazy person?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of all I want to say about it, because we're making, like I said, we're making a whole video about it. But yeah, I think I still gave it like 3 or 4 stars. I'd have to check. It's all on my Goodreads. But I rated it the same as I did the first time. So I didn't dislike it. Yeah.
It didn't lose any points.
Right? Didn't lose any points, but
I'm really scared to ever reread it. I just love it so much. And I think it might
safe
lose,
for you to
that's
yeah.
why I just,
Because the young adult book that was my favorite that she read, like, I even told her, I was like, I don't think you're going to like it, because I think if I read it for the first time as an adult, I would hate it.
Yeah, so I'm scared to visit that again, so
right.
I just left it alone.
Yeah.
I've just left it alone. I know it's one of my favorite YAs, and we're just going to leave it with that.
We're going to leave it at that.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I rewatched the movie. It never really does it justice, but...
No, it doesn't. Okay.
You're just going to keep playing with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one that I read was If I Disappear. This one was by, I'm probably going to butcher this, but Eliza Jane Brazier.
Brazier, like a bra?
I don't know. Don't ask me. It's got a Z in it. Who knows? Could be Eliza for all I know for the first name. Anyway.
Who
So,
has the name Eliza? Maybe this author.
possibly.
So
I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyways, this was her debut novel, which is, you know, just great because I just butchered her name. So, I have, like, mixed feelings about this book. I did give it a rating. Okay, for a long time I did not give it a rating, but I gave it 3 stars. So the idea of this book was really what drew me in. So it's about a woman who listens to this true crime podcast religiously, okay? No, it's not about me, but this is why it caught me, okay? I resonated with this because I was just like, I felt this. So she listens to this, and it's like her only tie to the world. She's a huge recluse. She's had a lot of stuff happen in her life recently, and this is like her one tie to the world is this true crime podcast. And the girl from the true crime podcast goes missing.
You told me about this.
Yeah, it's like she like actually goes, well, she doesn't know for a fact that she goes missing, but she stops posting and her social medias disappear and everything just vanishes. And this girl just up and leaves her life to go find out what the hell is going on with this girl.
That's shocking because she's a recluse.
I know.
So she just is like, no, I'm going to venture out
She's
now.
She's so obsessed with this idea, like, of this girl going missing. And then she starts digging around in all these people's lives in this, like...
She sounds very unqualified to be doing so.
She sounds like a Looney Tune. This is the worst idea on the planet. And honestly, I'm listening to this book going, what are you go home. Go home. This is a bad idea. I mean, the idea of the book was very, very intriguing. I was obviously interested, but I was also, as a tiny little girl over here going, this is the worst idea ever. Go home. This is not safe. Also, she didn't even know if anything was wrong, but then she starts to get, like, in the business of these townspeople, and they're, like, threatening her and telling her, like, it's none of her business, and I'm like,
it's
not your business. Go home. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Did you at least enjoy it?
I did, but, I'm really shocked at the ending. I don't feel like I know anything.
Okay, so it wasn't like a satisfying ending for you.
It wasn't.
Okay.
I was, okay, so it was like the shock was really shocking, but then it was like, it got more twisty, and then I was really left with not knowing who was the actual villain.
Okay.
And what she was gonna do about it. I don't think she knows who the villain is. And I don't know what happens next.
This poor baby needs to go back home.
She needs to go home.
And that's her review.
And that's my review. She needs to go home.
Yeah. So I was scrolling through my want to read list on Goodreads, and I randomly stumbled upon this book that I've had on my list forever, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to read it. And I'm glad that I did. And the reason it's been on my list forever is because it's got one of my favorite tropes, which is like people who keep running into each other. You know what I mean? At different points in their lives.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sort of like November 9. It's sort of like that. Basically, the whole premise of it, it's these two people, and they run into each other on their 30th birthday. They have the same birthday. They were both born on New Year's Day. But they were so their moms were in competition, basically at that hospital that they were born at.
Wait a minute, what is this?
It's called This Time Next Year. Did you read it?
I don't think I've read it.
Oh.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it was really big like a year or two ago.
Okay. Maybe I've read the back of it.
Basically, when their mothers were in labor with them, the baby born first on New Year's Day at that hospital won like some prize.
Okay.
And so they were like in labor together, and Minnie's mother told Quinn's mother that she was going to name her child Quinn. And of course, Quinn was born first, and his mom stole that name. And so Minnie ended up being named Minnie Cooper. And the rest of her life has been shit after that. So like her whole life, she's had the worst luck. And it's sort of like an ongoing joke with her and her family and her friend group. Like anytime something bad happens to her, it's always like, this would never happen to Quinn Cooper. This would only happen to Minnie Cooper. So she thinks because of this guy, since he was born before her and stole her name, that he's the reason she's had all this bad luck.
Damn Quinn.
And so they run into each other on their 30th birthday, which you find out as you read the book that they've actually ran into each other multiple times in their life and just kind of didn't know was the other person. And once she hears her name, she's like, you motherfucker, I know exactly who you are. And then they kind of have this whole like get to know each other phase together. And it's funny, the whole idea that like he has more luck than her because he is very wealthy and she's not. And he sort of feels bad about it. And you can tell because he kind of starts to do things for her. It's like she has this business that she owns that is completely failing, and he keeps trying to help her. And he like one day showed up. Yeah, he one day showed up to work for her company because they like were short and they like needed a car to transport these goods, and he like showed up and did it, and he invested in her company and he got her all this business. And then you get to follow them. So I love when books kind of go back and forth between past and present. I know that's like not everybody's favorite. I love it though. And so you get to like go back in their lives and kind of see how they ended up where they are today. And plus you get to follow them for a few years into the future and see how their relationship progresses and see that like really Minnie wasn't all that unlucky. She's just somebody who has a normal life and bad shit happens sometimes. And really Quinn was not the luckiest guy either. Like he has what he has because he worked for it, and he had a kind of a hard life too. And so I loved watching Quinn get to that realization. Not Quinn, Minnie get to that realization.
I think that's just human nature.
Yeah,
People, the
you want to blame somebody.
Empty, glass half.
Yeah,
you know, that's just it's a realization. It's a thing that comes with age too.
Yeah,
experience, time.
Yeah. And I loved the side characters too. I loved the people who work at her business, and her best friend, Layla, was like my favorite character in the whole book. I want to be besties with her. She was so great. She was such a good friend to Minnie.
I love side characters like that.
I really do, yeah.
Sometimes side characters
are like my favorite part of the book.
Can make or break the book for me.
Yeah. So all in all, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It was cute. It was more of like a rom-com sort of feel, which isn't always my cup of tea, but I enjoyed it. The characters had great chemistry. It was all very believable to me. And yeah, I really liked it. I would recommend it if you're looking for something like that.
I think I'm going to have to check that one out.
Yeah.
I haven't been reading a whole lot of romance. I haven't been reading very many. Rom-coms are not my thing. They have to be done right.
Rom-coms typically aren't either, but I love this one. This one was really entertaining.
I'm going to have to check that one out. It sounds very entertaining. It sounds like that would get me. Which, honestly, I might need something like that. I've been thinking I need something a little light. I've been going real dark,
twisty.
real twisty lately. The next one, I was actually just giving Hannah the rundown on the next one because I think she needs to read it. It was Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, which is also a Netflix show now. So I have had this one on my list for a very long time, and I started it and got about halfway through, and then put it down for a while, and then started it again. I was like, oh yeah, I have to finish this one. And honestly, for a while, I was, like, at the very beginning, I was really interested, and then I kind of was like, okay, I think I see where this is going. Okay, I kind of see where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think I have this figured out, and I'm going to be really angry if this is the typical, like, it felt like it was very methodical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was going to be your typical psychological thriller. I felt like I had it figured out, and I was kind of really disappointed.
Joke's on you.
Joke is really fucking on me, because the last few chapters, I was like, holy fuck. Excuse me, what happened?
She literally in all caps has holy shit written on the sheet that she wrote her review on.
The ending.
Yeah.
Holy shit. When I literally read this book, okay?
Mm-hmm. Watch the show too. I heard the show's good.
Watch the show, but read the book first. And then watch the show and compare.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, this is trippy shit. This was trippy shit. And I really thought I had it figured out. And I was real salty about it. I was a saltine cracker about how much I was sure I had this
And you
figured
should have
out.
just stuck it out. There's no reason for you to be salty.
And there was no reason for me to be salty, because...
Mm-hmm.
And I literally went and was like, what else has she written? Let's go. I'm ready. Yep.
So, the next one that I read, I really wanted to feel that way about it. I really did. This, I saw at a store. I read the back of it, and I was with my best friend, and he said, oh, my mom read that. She didn't like it. So then I texted her, asked her how she felt about it, and she said, you can borrow it from me if you want to, but really, I wouldn't recommend it. My dumbass bought it anyway and read it. It is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I wanted to like this so bad. The back sounded so interesting. Basically, it was about...
I usually like Lisa Jewell, too.
This one was just not it. It was about this... Basically, this girl's daughter, Ellie, goes missing, and then years later she connects with this man and meets his children and sees that... On the back it said that Poppy looked astonishingly like Ellie. So I was thinking that, like, it was literally going to look exactly like Ellie. Like, it was going to be Ellie. But it turns out it's just this younger girl who looked sort of like Ellie. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, maybe it's her daughter. And, like, spoiler alert, sure as shit, it was her daughter. Like, I figured the whole thing out in the first, like, third of the book. And...
It was Ellie's daughter?
It was Ellie's daughter.
Poppy was Ellie's daughter.
Poppy was Ellie's daughter. And there's this whole backstory, but I knew it from the beginning. I had a bad feeling about the piano teacher from the beginning, and sure enough, the piano teacher kidnapped her.
Fucking piano
The
teacher.
piano teacher couldn't get pregnant, and she was scared her husband was going to leave her, so she kidnapped Ellie, and Ellie was pregnant.
That fucking bitch.
So then she made Ellie have the baby, and then she raised the baby as her own, and then her husband found out that that baby was actually Ellie's, tracked Laurel down to say, hey, I have your granddaughter, actually ended up falling in love with Laurel, just for Laurel to find out that it was exactly who she thought it was, which was a little girl who looked like Ellie. Alright, so we had some technical difficulties, I don't know where it cut me off, but basically, long story short, on Then She Was Gone, is it tried so hard to be like a really good domestic thriller, but it wasn't. I would more qualify this as like a drama, maybe like a domestic drama or like a family drama. I think those are what those are called. So I don't know how to rate it, because if we're rating it as a thriller, it's maybe 1 star. It really wasn't. If we're
It probably is a little bit more of a drama, honestly.
But it's marketed as a thriller. It says a thriller on the back. It says mystery/thriller on the back. But like if we're rating it as like a family drama, maybe a 3 star. I guess it was entertaining enough as that sort of book. I don't know though. Like I didn't like or dislike any of the characters. They were all just sort of blah. And I just felt like I was really disappointed with the ending and with There wasn't really any character development. And she had such an opportunity to do something really cool. Basically, the whole premise behind when Ellie went missing, Laurel was like heartbroken. Not because her daughter went missing, but because that was like her favorite child. And she will admit, she has 2 other children. And she says multiple times in the beginning, like, I wish that it was one of those other children that went missing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Lisa could have done something with that she didn't do. Because then it's really never mentioned again in the rest of the book.
Yeah, that's kind of...
I wanted Laurel to be crazier than she was. She was too calm for me. You know?
Yeah, that
Once we flash forward a few years, she was just too calm for me.
Yeah, I think if you're going to put that little nugget in there,
then you have to do something else with it.
Do something else with it, or don't put the nugget in at all.
Like, I wanted, it sounds horrible, but like, I'm used to these thrillers where these women are fucking crazy. Like, I wanted her to hurt one of her other children because she was so...
You're going on very level now.
I know, I know. But it's like, I wanted her to be so, like, angry that it was Ellie that went missing and not her other kids that she lashed out, and she just didn't. It was just never mentioned again, so I don't know why she even bothered putting that in. Yeah, I guess I was just disappointed by it. So, like, I wouldn't recommend it, but I guess you do you.
So the next one that I read was for our video, the next one that we're going to film, The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Okay. So, I want this to be known. I reread this a few months ago, and I even mentioned in that video that if I had read this as an adult, I would have hated it. I'm not going to rip it apart. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, I read this as an adult.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate it.
The narrator
is horrible.
Yeah.
The main character...
She's the worst person.
Her name is Belly.
It's so irritating.
I hate that. I hate that we're calling this girl
Belly.
Her
name is Isabel. They call her Belly because she used to love Jelly Bellies when she was younger.
Whatever. Do you know what that's gonna do to that girl's self-esteem? They call her Belly.
Not
her mother.
Izzy, not Belle. Not
her
Bella.
friends. They all call her Belly. That's not gonna make any girl feel pretty. That's my biggest complaint. Mm-hmm. Don't call her Belly. That drove me nuts every time I heard it. Anyway. But, okay, so to me, the parents' story was really interesting.
Loved it.
I did like the dynamic between Belly and what was it? Susanna?
Yes, Susanna.
I really did like that dynamic. Yeah. But, you know, it was definitely... a read that was a bit too shallow for me.
She's very narcissistic.
She's very narcissistic. It's very much about her. And the thing that really, I think, bothered me, and of course this is the way a lot of teenagers think, I'm sure. I mean, I remember thinking like this. Mm-hmm. But I think hers went a little bit further than anybody's should ever really go, is if your friends... mom is diagnosed with cancer and your friend is just finding out, the last thing you should be thinking about is yourself. And that really, really bothered me.
Yes.
That was her reaction, was how much it affected her.
And that's something that bothered me as an adult
shit out of her.
And one thing I do, as much as I hate reading from Belly's point of view, I do have to kind of appreciate Jenny Han, the author, because that's genuinely, teenagers are narcissistic.
Oh, they are.
And so I think she's a realistic teenager. I just think that as an adult, I can't stand that.
Yeah.
I can't stand reading from the point of view as a realistic teenager. Yeah.
That's why I had a problem with it, is because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I'm 30 years old, and every single one of those teenagers drove me fucking nuts.
Yeah, because you want to be their mother.
I was like, stop it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. There are people dying.
Literally dying.
That is not a problem. Shut up about the stupid pier.
Are we a little crooked?
Maybe.
Okay. Sorry for crooked. We're just going to keep going anyway.
Yeah. Shut up about the stupid pier. I don't care. That's not a problem.
The pier.
You know.
And I reread it when I was on vacation on the beach. It's just it has that sort of vibe. You know, I love...
It is a very beachy read.
Yes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to go deeper into it. But I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
It's fair. I'm alright with that. The last one that I finished in April was Nomadland by Jessica Bruder, I think is how you say it. I started reading this just
Oh,
like,
we've
on a whim.
heard about
Yes.
this. Okay.
So I started listening to it on an audiobook, and then when I was about halfway through the audiobook, I noticed that it was a movie. I didn't know it was a movie before I started reading it. But then I got even more excited to finish it because I wanted to like watch the movie and see if it was similar. I haven't watched the movie yet. I'm excited to. I finished reading it on my Kindle. I have to say, I really wish I had finished it on audiobook. The narrator was great. And I think it's one of those stories that I preferred to listen to. Mm-hmm. But I still really enjoyed it. I think I'd probably give it 4.5 stars. It touched on a lot. What drew me to it is I'm really fascinated by like that nomadic van life. Something I've always wanted to do one day. It's just like buy a van and live in it and like not have a permanent residence.
I just cannot do that.
Yeah, most people can't, but like that's definitely something I feel like I could do, and so that's why I wanted to read the book, because I wanted to read about it. It totally wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't like this lighthearted book about nomads. It really touched on like economic inequality, which I think is such a timely subject and such an important subject to talk about. These are all retirees who are living in a van because they worked their entire lives and paid into Social Security their entire lives, and now their Social Security isn't enough to sustain them. So they had to leave their homes, and some of them didn't even have homes to begin with.
No. Mm-hmm.
That's like the best part about this book is you get to hear so many people's stories. Like some people were like college professors, and now they're living in a van and working seasonal jobs because like they're in their 70s working at Amazon seasonally because their Social Security is not enough to sustain them. And it's something that I never thought about, that group of people that we really need to protect. You know, that group of people who raised us, who are now older and retired and can't fully retire because the money's not there. And it was just so interesting to hear how people who had real lives got there and how easy it is. You know, one wrong move, you put all your eggs in the wrong basket, and suddenly your whole career that you worked your entire life for is gone and you have nothing to retire on. And the first story that was told was this woman's, and since I'm the worst with names, I can't remember her name, but she had the most interesting life. She's worked so many different careers. She was a trucker, she was a bartender, she like did all these things, and she raised children, and she worked so hard for so many years, and now she's of retiring age and she's still working so hard and living in a van because the money's not there, even though she paid into Social Security her entire life. And so that was kind of really the underlying tone of it, is economic disparity and how that really affects older folks and, you know, retired folks. It is. It's very real.
It's so real.
And these are real stories.
And all of these places that, like, senior living and all of that, they're so expensive.
They are. Not everybody can afford that.
And nursing homes, they're even more expensive than any kind of, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And so now they have no sense of...
And not everyone has kids.
Or kids who can afford to do that. Like that first woman, she has a daughter, but her daughter can't even support her own family, let alone her mom. And so it's really, these people have no sense of security, but they're just making the best out of it. You know, she chooses, this first woman that I'm talking about, chooses to look at this as an adventure. And I think that's so cool. Yeah. That, you know, you can have such a hard life like that and choose to look at the good side of it. And there's all sorts of interesting stories about these people that are talked about in this book, and this whole story about this whole town that was just a factory town. Like literally everybody who lived in that small little town worked at that one factory. When that whole factory shut down, everybody was out of a job and everybody had to vacate the town. So they all ended up being nomadic. And so you hear about them too, and it's just a super interesting book. I would really recommend it. It wasn't what I thought it was, but it was so much better than I thought it would be. So I think it's something that everybody needs to read, and it's nonfiction. I don't typically read a lot of nonfiction, but I think it's definitely an important subject.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last book that I read this month was Every Last Fear by Alex Finlay. So this one I gave 5 stars. It was a wonderful read. It was about a family. There's 2 sons and 1 daughter, I believe, and the oldest son is in prison for murder, and the second son kind of just washed his hands of it. The marriage between the parents is kind of falling apart because the father and the daughter are convinced that the oldest son is not guilty. And the middle son is positive that he is guilty.
So it like rips the whole family apart.
Yeah, so it kind of just rips the whole family apart. And then the family goes on. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a third son. There's a real little guy. He's like 6. Maybe 8. I don't know. I can't remember. I suck at this stuff.
He's small.
He's small. I think his name was Tommy.
Oh, so you know, anytime they name somebody Tommy, you know they're a kid.
He's a little fine.
Yeah.
So they went on this unexpected vacation to Mexico, and the entire family was murdered.
I'm sorry?
Mm-hmm. This book was so good because it kept me guessing until the very end. It was like a very long, very complicated Law and Order episode.
Okay.
So I was digging it.
Yeah.
Like, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very good. I was very into it. It wasn't quite like a psychological thriller like I have been into, you know?
Yeah.
So I was digging it, but, you know, like, I'm a sucker for Law and Order and, like, Criminal Minds and all that. So that's kind of how I felt like this read. So it's a little bit different from everything else I've been reading, but I would highly, highly recommend Every Last Fear.
Fun.
Because I was just, like, it had me jumping. Like, he was going there to, like, this poor kid. His brother's in prison. Now they're coming and telling him the rest of his family's dead.
Oh, so the kid is the only one who lives?
Yeah.
Tommy?
Not Tommy. Not the youngest. The middle one. The
middle
middle
one
brother.
that thinks that the brother's guilty.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
Tommy dies too?
Tommy dies.
Tragic.
Too. That's why I don't remember how old he was.
Yeah. He's like, he's dead anyway.
Yeah, right. And that's another one of those that's jumping back and forth because you
Okay.
get, like, everybody's perspective from,
Yeah.
like, before, during, after kind of thing. I don't know why I said it like that.
Did you ever find out, like, who kills him?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll leave it at that.
It's very good. But thank you so much for coming to visit us today.
Yes.
Because we know we totally missed a few weeks there. So
What?
sorry, but we're back. We're back, and we're gonna
We're filming a bunch of videos in bulk today.
So we're gonna really try to be on time with everything as much as possible. But thanks for joining us for our, what is this, April?
April reading.
April reading.
Yes.
So comment down below and let us know what you're reading. And if you read any of these and what you thought of them. As always, we are looking for your recommendations. Not, you know, that we need any
more books to put on our shelves.
But you know, we're always looking. Definitely hit that like button and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when we post. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.